Good morning, traders. This is Tony from easyMarkets. FOMC day. We have a little bit of volatility pre-game. We got the euro back above 120. Now, this is interesting because last night there was sources in the ECB releasing to Reuters there that they're not confirmed that October is going to be the announcement date for ECB taper. That they're worried about some members are worried about the recent rise in the euro, and that this rise is a bigger threat than to the stability and the recovery than and it has to be taken into account basically, and so the delaying of the taper is potentially on the cards there. So I don't know. The market reacted with obviously a little bit of selling there, around about 50 points, but the reaction then was a little supportive of the euro afterwards. So the US dollar and the US dollar index in particular are both struggling to gain ground into this FOMC, which by all accounts can be a US dollar positive event. All right, so the market is, apart from dollar yen, which is holding up above the 111 level, the market is buying most of the majors against US dollar on dips, and the euro today in the Asian session has just broken above your last night's high to around 81.20.15, and could be grinding higher for the foreseeable session as well, given that 120 was supposed to be the resistance into this FOMC, which does put the US dollar on the back foot going into the announcement tonight. Now, what is the things to focus on in the FOMC tomorrow morning? If you are keen enough to wake up, it's 4 o'clock in Australia, 2 a.m., 4 a.m. in Australia, 2 a.m. in Singapore. The things you need to be watching is the volatility can come from a couple of sources. One, on how Yellen appears to be pushing one way or the other in her question and answer and a statement regarding inflation concerns and the Fed's track to raise rates, and also what they call the Fed dot plot. Now, what's the dot plot? The dot plot is the expectations over the next couple of years, how many rate hikes they're going to be via central bank members or Fed members putting little dots next to a graph showing what they think the rate hike rate should be at this point. So at the moment, there's expectation that dot plot will be lowered, and this could hurt the US dollar if it's lowered dramatically or a bit more than expected. But also Yellen, don't discount Yellen's ability to move the US dollar as well. After the press conference, when the questions and answers session begins, she talks up the chances of a rate hike, or talks up the strength of the US economy, or plays up the chances of inflation being temporary still, given that the last inflation print was quite strong. There will have to be some considerations though about the impact on the two major hurricanes. Now, whether she discounts that and says that the Fed will look through any short-term weakness to potentially raise rates in December still, is really where the US dollar is going to be made or broken on this. But you can see that the US dollar right now, the market's positioning US dollar negative. So that's an interesting point. This is a little bit of US dollar selling into the event is potentially puts the risk now that US dollar will strengthen, especially if the weakness was to continue all the way up until 4 a.m. tomorrow. If you're trading some of the other pairs in the market, you're probably looking at the pound and asking, is the consolidation and the profit taking over? 135 has held multiple attempts in the last 24 hours. So it's it is one way of expressing, if you do want to buy against the US dollar, that's one way of expressing potential strength here for the pound, because it's got that big story behind it, and that's really, if you're going to be buying something, you do want to look for the big story, and the Bank of England raising in November is a big story that will continue to underpin the pound. The risk to this is that there's a speech on Friday from May outlining her vision going forward for the Brexit negotiations. In terms of the rumours that Boris Johnson was going to resign if she went a little bit weaker, softer Brexit, he's discounted that, saying that that's not the case. So that effect has been sort of temporary, and the market's pretty strong on the pound at the moment. All right, so if you do want to have a little bit more of an in-depth chat about the levels of where you should be looking at if you're trading tonight, whether it's on the dollar yen or it's on the euro dollar, give us a call here. You can see our contact details below. If you're not a member of easyMarkets Active Traders Group, want to have a dealer like myself to help you through these big events, talk to you about the risks or the things you should be watching for, please click on the link below. You can sign up for the accounts. We can give you certain reduced spreads as well if you're an active trader. Thank you.